Good morning. It's coming on the middle of October now, so I guess it's time for me to get some of the produce out of the ground. And today I'm going to start with potatoes, the onions, and the plums that are still on that plum tree right there. I'll start with the potatoes. Almost all the potato plants now are dead. There's some alive back there under the protection of the trees from the frost, but I'll dig them anyway. I've been taking up some new potatoes over time from these two beds, so there's might be 2/3 of what was originally planted there. And I'm having some animal dig up the potatoes now, because this one wasn't laying here yesterday. I had walked around and picked up any potatoes that was out on top of the ground, and that one was dug up since yesterday. So I'm not expecting a bumper crop of potatoes, but we'll see what we got when we get them dug. I have a 5-gallon bucket here because I found that a 5-gallon bucket full of potatoes is approximately 30 pounds. Larger potatoes weigh less than 30 pounds. Smaller potatoes, a 5-gallon bucket full would be more, of course, because you've got bigger spaces in between the larger ones. Okay, so in numbers it's not a lot of potatoes, but the ones that I did get, most of them are nice sized potatoes. That's for that bed. This bed here, I had almost half of them already dug. And once again, the potatoes are a nice size. And we'll see how much I got now by measuring them out in a 5-gallon bucket. First we'll do these here. Now these here. Got about a half a bucket full out of that bed. Now, as I said in the beginning, that I only have about 2/3 of the plants left, and there's about 27 plants in each bed, and my past research suggests that a pound of potatoes per plant is a good yield. So what I had left, I should have gotten about 40 pounds, and I've got almost 30 pounds at least here, because the 5-gallon bucket is almost full. So I did alright. If the rest of the beds turn out that way, then I will consider myself to have done fairly good with potatoes this year. I'm going to dig the rest of the beds, and then I'll bring you back and show you what I've got from each bed. I had intended to throw the potatoes back in a bunch here and then show you the piles at each bed, but I noticed throwing them back and the potatoes hitting each other, some of them cracked. So I took the bucket with me and loaded them up as I went. And so you've seen the first two beds. This is the two beds now right in underneath the spruce trees. And I got half a bucket full from this bed and about 3/4 of a bucket full from that bed. Out here, the potatoes are both bigger and more plentiful. And if we go in here, you see the soil is really dry. Out here, it's moist. That is, of course, because of the tree above. That is a large part of the reason why these beds didn't get as good a yield, because of the dryness. Once you get halfway back to bed, it started to dry right out, and the tree shielding it from any rain. Now you remember these two beds, they were where the compost bins used to be, and as expected they done much better. This one I got almost a full bucket full for 27 potatoes. That is what would be considered a good yield. This one over here, however, this is what I got. Well rounded, almost 1 1/4 bucketfuls. So 35-40 pounds of potatoes out of this one bed. And while I was digging, I said in an earlier video that I was going to test a couple of local grain plants, namely lamb's quarter and red-rooted amaranth. But I was digging through it, and this is really rich, beautiful soil here. And I thought, no, I better change my mind on that, because the lamb's quarter and amaranth, I don't know if I'm going to get anything or not. It'll be just a test. So I better put something here that I know I'm going to use. Right now what I'm thinking is doing a row of carrots, a row of onions, a row of carrots all the way down the bed on both beds. We'll see when the spring comes. As for the lamb's quarter, of course the leaves are dead, but the seed is there. I'll collect the seed from this one and that one. And then I have to collect seed from this amaranth. And I'll plant it out in 2 of the other beds. These 2 beds here, this was the edge of the original garden. The garden originally, when I showed up first, was a traditional tilled garden, but it only came to these 2 sets of beds here and stopped right there. And so this, as gardens go, was a bunch of rubble and that gotten thrown out of the garden. So I didn't want to dig it, and I had these big timbers here, so I put them down in a rectangle and just threw mulch in. That was 2 years ago. Last year I planted potatoes here, and I didn't get a good yield, which is part of the reason why I planted out 8 beds this year. Now, as we're adding to the mulch every year, I'm getting a very thick layer now of basically composted. There's wood chips and grass and stinging nettles and leaves and kelp. But it's building up. So from this bed, I got almost a bucket full. Once again, what would be expected from about 27 potato plants. So that's good. And then I came over to this bed. This one is smaller than this first one here. And I've got a rounded up bucket full again. So I did really well with this bed. They are going to be in potatoes again next year at least. So pretty much I'm going to just level this stuff out. I might get some more mulch to throw on top and plant the potatoes in, and then when they come up, mulch them again. It'll be like that next year, maybe for another couple of years. I don't know when I'll maybe put something else there, but for now it's the 2 potato beds. So this is a large wheelbarrow. I don't remember the size. I got about a quarter of a bucket full of potatoes when I went around and looked for volunteer potato plants growing up around. So this is a little over 200 pounds of potatoes, and I've already dug about 20 pounds. So let's say 220 pounds of potatoes in 8 beds. That's not bad. 30 pounds per bed would be 240 pounds. So 220, I think I did all right. The plum tree didn't produce as much this year as it did last year. I think they'll all fit in this bucket. We'll see. Excellent. So 1 gallon. Plums. I've had a few plums, so the plums that I've ate already would probably just finish filling up this bucket. Last year I got about 1.5 gallons. Now for the onions and the shallots. They're not large, but most of them, the heads have fallen over. And starting to go yellow and brown. So these are the red spring onions that I set for as seed. My first try, I'm very happy with them. See, I don't think they're supposed to be really large anyway. So that's a nice onion. Let's see if I can find what would be the biggest one here. So this would be the biggest of them. I've got a few there like that. So I'm quite pleased. I will be growing these again next year, as well as 3 or 4 other heirloom varieties that I've found. That's it. I'll leave those weeds there and remove them all before I plant in the spring. I've got quite a bunch of onions here. Some of them a good size. Like I said, I think that's about the size that they're supposed to grow. Some of them are very small. That's to be expected. That's the way things work. You'll get some big ones, some small ones. As far as shallots go, I don't know how big shallots are supposed to be. These will be the first shallots I've ever saw in my life. So these here are the ones that I just pulled up from the extra ones over in the other bed. And I'm going to take these up now. So, these are the conserva shallots. Of course, as you can see, I have some tiny ones. I have these. This is the biggest one that I have. So if you know, leave it in the comments. Is this the size of shallot that I should be expecting? And if so, they grew well over in the sunny patch. They didn't do quite as well here. Now remember, there was 2 volunteer potato plants and those beans, so that may have affected them. But even with this, I'm saying conserva shallots stay done very well here, and I am going to try them again next year. These are the ones I set as sets. The yellow ones grew nicely. Make sure I'm not missing any. It's all that's right there. What's along here by the fence is not going to be much. Let's see what it is. Little tiny things. So I just have to take them and use them as mini onions. Some of them grew a little bit. Since I don't have a knife, I went in and got my pruners. That's the one little pumpkin. The other one is not ripe. And I'm thinking I might fry them up like a summer squash, which I have done with pumpkins before. Found out where one of the hens laid an egg. And something really interesting I want to show you. This tomato plant. We've had, including last night, 6 nights of frost. 2 of them were heavy frost. And this tomato plant is still alive. Even leaves that out in the open. They are not completely killed off. This is the yellow pear tomato. So, of course, I've collected seeds from the ripe tomatoes on this, and there's a lot of tomatoes on here now that if the plant dies, maybe I'll take them in and fry them up. I'm hoping some more will get ripe. So I think with that, I'm going to put this video up and show you what I got. I'm happy with it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you again in the next video. In another couple of days, I should be harvesting more. See you later.